So, I want to talk about set theoretic realism and the idea of a constructivism. Um, Set theoretic realism, as I've talked about in recent videos that I've just made today. Um, Set theoretic realism is, of course, realism, which means that number or things in themselves are independent. They're mind independent, and they are objectively real. Almost like the Platonic heavens, similar to that, but not necessarily in that abstract form. But a set theoretic realism is, of course, the reason of the set theoretic form is simply that we can think of things in terms of collections of things or of sets. Or we can look at number. Specifically, I want to think about things in terms of number. I'm concerned about the philosophy of mathematics here, more so than just metaphysics. And a set theory of realism about number is just that we can look at things that number is an objectively real thing, mind independent, and we can look at them and think about them in terms of sets or collections of things, in the way that the number 3 can be looked at in terms of things grouped in threes. Russell's logical theory of ramified types is not necessarily set. It's not necessarily set theoretic, but it is definitely logical. A logical way of looking at numbers. And Russell's and Whitehead's Principia Mathematica, which is a venture which was to show how mathematics is literally reducible to logic, that is pretty much use of that's their use of set theory. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking a lot about set theoretic realism, but I also want to think about the idea of a constructivism. A constructivism is that it almost can be looked at in contrast with set theoretic realism, but also in conjunction with. It can be looked at in conjunction with set theoretic realism, in that number really does exist. However, we can construct them out of sets. We don't have an immediate notion. It's not like we have innate ideas in the way that Plato would say or Locke would say, but we can construct sets which can be our way of thinking about numbers. So constructivism is that, well, in this sense at least, it is that we can construct them out of sets, or construct them out of logical objects and think about them in that way, although they are objectively real. They can be looked at in contrast with set theoretic realism, in that almost as that number isn't necessarily mind independent. It can be mind dependent, or or some other theory. So for the current purposes, let's think of, we're kind of trying to advocate a set theoretic idealism, and that which is kind of the thesis that number is mind dependent. However, we still don't have an inadequate frontal notion of number. However, we can construct sets to think about number. We can construct sets to we can construct sets to think about number. So we can construct numbers out of sets and think about numbers out of sets. So that's kind of what a constructivism would be. So I've kind of been thinking about that a lot, and Um, kind of planning some more videos about on this topic. Want to do some more reading on as well. It's kind of a interesting topic, I think. It's interesting to me in general to think about things, think about number in a set theoretic realistic way. Um, but if you think I messed something over, let me know. Comment below. Let me know. Thank you.